Yeah, I'm ready. Shalom Aleichem, everybody. I got up from Shiva yesterday. Today is Wednesday, the week of Parshas Emor. My mother, as most of you probably know, passed away last Wednesday. I sat Shiva for 7 days, got up yesterday, Tuesday morning. And first of all, I just want to thank everyone who reached out, some via email, some in person, some via text, with Nichumei Avelim. It really does mean a lot. It meant a lot, means a lot. It's a tremendous chizuk when you know people are thinking about you, caring about you. And I've always seen Mevaseret as a family, and to know that my brothers, my parents, my siblings were sharing with me divrei nechama, and really meant a tremendous amount. And I wanted to just thank everyone for that. I wanted to share an important idea, primarily from Rav Asher Weiss. We find ourselves, this Motzei Shabbos is Lag BaOmer, and we've been experiencing this period of time, this Avelus for the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. I personally find myself in an extended Avelus, not just the Avelus of Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, but a personal Avelus. And this week of sitting Shiva taught me a tremendous amount about my mother, taught me a tremendous amount about myself, and about Klal Yisrael as well. So I just wanted to kind of tie this all together. So the Gemara in Maseches Yevamos tells us on Daf Samach Beis and Beis that Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 Talmidim, 12,000 pairs, 12,000 chavrusos, and v'kulam mesu bein Pesach le'atzeres. This period of time, they all passed away. Why? Shelo noagu kavod zeh bazeh. Because they didn't act in a respectful fashion one to the other. V'haya ha'olam shameh. And the world was desolate. There was something fundamentally missing in the world. At Sheba Rabbi Akiva Eitzel Rabosenu Shebedarom, until Rabbi Akiva found himself with his Talmidim in the south. V'shana lahem, and he started to teach them. Umi hayu Rabosenu Shebedarom. Who were these Talmidim? So these Talmidim were Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. And the Medrash in Koheles Rabbah, Siman Yud Aleph, adds that there were two other Talmidim as part of this cadre. There was also Rav Nechemia, and there was also, just Rav Nechemia. Rav Nechemia was added to this list. 6 Talmidim she badarom. So one issue, just as always pointed out, is why are we celebrating the demise of the 24,000 Talmidim? Lag BaOmer is a time of celebration, not just because it is the Hilula of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, but the Chida writes it is not just because it's a yortzeit, but on some level, yeah, we're celebrating the Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, their death? Not exactly. The fact that they finished dying, they all died. So we're celebrating the fact that the Magefa was over and there was no one left. It's not something to celebrate. So what we're really celebrating is the power of Rabbi Akiva to rebuild. The fact that all of that effort, 12,000 pairs of Talmidim, perished at this period of time. So any normal human being would be meyayish, would say, I don't have anything left. I've given it my all, and what else can I do? But Rabbi Akiva, perhaps the celebration is not that they stopped dying, but Rabbi Akiva then said, okay, that mission, for whatever reason, failed. And now I have to rebuild. And I'm going to start with these 5 or 6 new Talmidim, and we're going to start afresh and rebuild the Masorah. But Rav Asher Weiss asked the question, why is there such a chomor onesh on these 12,000 pairs of Talmidim? Sure, lo nohagu kavod zeh bazeh. Terrible. They weren't respectful one to the other. But since when do we find that the onesh for kvod chaverim is onesh misa? Where do we find such a thing? That you're chayv misa for not having respect one for the other? Very strange, very strange. So Rav Asher Weiss answers that perhaps, no, this is not an onesh. This is not a classical punishment, avera punishment. It's not really what's going on over here. Rather, it was a fundamental lesson that Rabbi Akiva was trying to impart in his Talmidim, something Rabbi Akiva really stood for. And these Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, were supposed to be what Chazal referred to as Ma'atikei Shmua. They were supposed to take that Masorah, the legacy, really the Torah Sheba'al Peh that Rabbi Akiva created, the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is Rabbi Akiva, and they were supposed to take that and be the Balei HaMasorah. And when you are one of the Balei HaMasorah, the Balei HaMasorah has to be a quality of tahara, of purity, in transmitting that Masorah. Rabbi Akiva tried to impart in his Talmidim amongst his greatest of teachings. We learn in Avos Paragimel Mishnah Yudalit in the name of Rabbi Akiva, Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tselem. That man is so beloved because he's created B'Tselem Elokim, and Chiba Yeser Nodas Lo Shenivra B'Tselem Elokim. Understand that your fellow man is Tselem Elokim and has to be treated in a godly, godlike fashion. He's Tselem Elokim, and therefore he's Chaviv, and every person has to appreciate that. The same Rabbi Akiva that taught us in last week's parsha. Amar Rabbi Akiva, the very famous Torah's Kohanim, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha ze klal gadol ba'Torah. This is the Torah. Ahavta l'recha kamocha. And that's what Rabbi Akiva stood for. And that's what was so necessary for the Balei HaMasorah to actually acquire and transmit. And if that wasn't 100% pure, if that was lacking in any way whatsoever, so these Talmidim could not be the Balei HaMasorah. So it's not the pshat that they were punished because they didn't have respect, but they were just unfit to play this very lofty and exalted goal. And therefore Rabbi Akiva, Hashem orchestrated, Rabbi Akiva would have to start over with Talmidim that were fit. So these Talmidim had to, in a certain sense, be cleared out so we could have a pure Masorah. And Rabbi Akiva starts once again with these 5 or 6 new Talmidim, and of course the very famous Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, Daf Peivav, where the Gemara tells us, Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, Stam Sifra, Rabbi Yehuda, Stam Sifri, Rabbi Shimon, Stam Tosefta, Rav Nechemia, and all of these Talmidim were Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, which means our Torah Sheba'al Peh, Mishnah, Tosefta, Sifra, Sifri, all emanated from these new Talmidim. Rabbi Akiva restarts and builds with these Talmidim this very, very pure sense of Masorah. And indeed, one of the things that these Talmidim, Chazal, all over Chazal, you find in the name of these Talmidim, various aspects of Midos Ben Adam Lechavero, which these Talmidim did pick up from their Rabbi Akiva. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. So, for example, Rabbi Meir in the Tanchuma in Parshas Vayechi teaches us, Kol hamevarech es Yisrael kilu mevarech es Hashchina. You appreciate your fellow Jew. You bless your fellow Jew. It's as if you're blessing the Shechina. Rav Meir further teaches us, have a shvel ruach. A person should be modest. Bifnei kol adam. Do not think you're better than other people. That's what Rav Meir teaches us. And of course, Rabbi Yehuda tells us, Kol hamekabel pnei chaverim ki'ilu mekabel pnei Shechina. Once again, exalting the midos ben adam lechaver. These were those new Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. Rav Yossi, one of those Talmidim, teaches us, Miyamai lo avarti al divrei chaverai. I never contradicted one of my friends. Wow. Think about it. The 12,000 pairs, lo nagu kavod ze bazeh. This new generation of Tanoim, Rav Yossi says, I never contradicted my friends, so much so that he writes, Ani ba'atzmi, this is found in Shabbos Daf Kuf Yud Ches, Ani ba'atzmi she'eni Kohen. I wasn't a Kohen, says Rabbi Yossi, ve'af al pichen im omrim chaveirai alei laduchin. If some of my friends told me, go up and duchin, ha'isi ole, I would go up so as not to contradict my friends. What a tikkun. Understanding the messages of Rabbi Akiva, that Chavivim Yisrael shenivru b'tselem, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha zu klal gadol b'Torah, and on. You have myriad of Chazals in the name of these Talmidim exalting and really emphasizing that quality of Ben Adam Lechavero. And to be part of the Balei HaMasorah, that's exactly what's necessary. If you don't have that quality, so you are unfit to be a Talmid Rabbi Akiva. That's what these 12,000 Talmidim were lacking, and that's what these 5 or 6 new Talmidim who became the Balei HaMasorah, That's what they absorbed from Rabbi Akiva, and that's why they were fit, and they were the ones that gave us our Mesorah HaTahora. That was the fault of these Talmidim, and that was the tikkun, and perhaps why these Talmidim, these other Talmidim, these new generation of Talmidim were so deserving. And it's no coincidence that we find in this Tkufa, as we get ready, a few short weeks away for Kabbalas HaTorah, it's no coincidence whatsoever that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died during this time, and these new Talmidim emerged during this time. Because to achieve that proper sense of Kabbalas HaTorah, Vayichan Yisrael, Keneged Ahar, Ki Ish Echad Belev Echad, that sense of oneness that is such a prerequisite for Kabbalas HaTorah. And I would just like to share with you, after sitting Shiva for a week, as I mentioned at the outset, I learned a tremendous amount. I learned a lot about my mother. And one of the things I picked up, and I really started to appreciate, is everyone. She had a kind word for everyone, a smile for everyone, caring about everyone. She never ever got into disagreements, never treated anyone with disrespect, and that's something that came out over and over and over in sitting Shiva. One thing that really struck me, and I want to just hammer the point home. I was sitting at Shiva a couple of days ago, and these two Russian-Israeli women come in. I never saw them in my life, had no idea who they were. And the people I didn't recognize when I was sitting Shiva, I asked them to tell me what their names were, how they knew my mother. And these two women said they were her manicurists. And she'd go every month, every 2 months to get a manicure. And these women had heard that my mother was nifteres. And they felt they had to come in and share with me. They had to come in and make a Shiva call. Absolute strangers. And if they didn't come in, I certainly would have not known. And they had no reason to come in other than to share with me what my mother meant to them and how friendly she was and how kind she was and how they enjoyed their time that they spent with her. My mother's nurses in the Kupat Cholim, 4 women came in who had known my mother in a so-called business capacity, in a medical capacity. But they came in to pay a Shiva call to express how they connected to my mother, how my mother was so nice to them and how much they are going to miss her. Those visits made such a difference to me. People, strangers who I never knew, who knew my mother, and they didn't have to really come in. My mother was a seamstress. So people came in, she did tailoring for women, for certain people I did not know, but they came in to share with me how much my mother made an impression upon them. And the chesed of doing those visits, those Tanchumei Avelim, really touched me and meant so much. That sense of looking at someone else and seeing their situation and wanting to give them a pickup, wanting to give them chizuk during tough times and really appreciating the midos of another person. I cannot emphasize how important these visits from strangers meant to me. They meant a tremendous amount. For sure, not to denigrate, not to minimize the visits from friends, the visits from my friends, the visits from my mother's friends, the people I did know, sure. But that's in a certain sense, that's expected. You know they're going to come. But it's when the strangers made the effort to come and really appreciate that and put themselves in our unfortunate shoes, how much that meant. I want to share something else that I think is just important to keep in mind. Again, this is the first time I've had to sit Shiva, and it was a big learning experience. But there were certain people who were there for almost every minyan. And one of the anxieties of an Avel is making sure being worried that there's going to be a minyan in the Beis Avel. Because everyone's busy, everyone has their shuls to go to, everyone has their schedules. And those people that made the effort to kind of be there as much as possible for minyanim, people who came in to bring food, who came in to just check in. Certain people came in to check in more than once, over and over again, not just to pay that perfunctory call, but that showed a real effort of caring, of making sure that the people sitting were properly comforted and were properly taken care of. Tremendous chesed, and something that I learned so much from, that when I have to be menachem avel by other people, to be sensitive, to be that person who's at those minyanim, if you're able to do so, I cannot tell you what a chesed it is to be that person who's even a stranger. Those people came in who didn't know me, who didn't know my mother, but I recognized them from the community, and they came in just to share in some of our pain, some of our difficulties. Really meant a lot. So I'll just share with you, Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people, are an amazing, amazing people, and we have what to learn from everyone. But during this period of time and beyond, one thing I learned a tremendous amount about is how to be menachem avel, how to look after those that are in pain, those that are suffering, how to be there for our fellow people. And if there is a mitzvah at hand during this time, these weeks, as we get ready for Kabbalas HaTorah, as we get ready for Chag HaShavuos, can't emphasize enough. Sure, we have to work always on our Bnei Adam Lamakom, but I can't emphasize enough the power and the impact that those acts of chesed have on our fellow Jews, on our fellow people, on all of mankind. And I give everyone the bracha that they should become ohavei chesed, chesed seekers, who look out for opportunities to give to others, to be mechabed others, and to be there for others.